project, SalukiSpeech, where users who sign up are able to practice their speech and improve their English pronunciation. So what I'm going to go ahead and do first is we can go ahead and sign up for an account. Now, this project was created using the Flask framework, where routes are defined, such as right here or right here, and each route loads its own HTML page. So we can go ahead and create a fake email address at gmail.com. Password can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we just have a consent form right here that explains what this project was, the reason this project was created. We can go ahead and confirm. And once we hit sign up, what happens in the code is that this is the route that is executed when we click on the sign up button. And what happens is if the request method is post, we have multiple variables that we get from the input. And what happens here is that if the password is not equal to the password check, then a flash pops up that says the passwords do not match, which redirects us to the sign up page again. If the user does not exist in our Postgres database, we're going to have to redirect to the same sign up page as before. And also a flash message will pop up if the consent form is not signed. So we can go ahead and click sign up. Now what happens when we sign up is that a new user is created. And so we have a SQL Alchemy database where we store all of our users in all of the related databases. So once a given user signs up, their email, their role, and their password is saved in the database. What happens with a password is that there's a password hash that's generated, and this is for security purposes, so the password is not exposed in any way, shape, or form. We go ahead and add that to the database and we commit. What happens with this session variable is that we set it true, so that means that the user would now be logged in. So the session is logged in. The session is a Flask import, and then it takes it to the demographics, which we can go over right now. We can go ahead and say 22. And this is just some info asking about the demographic information of whoever's using it. This is just for research purposes, so the researchers can gain a better understanding of who is using the app and what vowels they practice mostly on. Go ahead and say male. For natural language, we could just say English. And how long have we been studying English? 22 years. We can go ahead and say advanced and other. And we can hit sign up. Once we hit sign up, all of this information is stored in a SQL Alchemy database where it's under your name. So we can go ahead and click sign up. And what happens here is that this is our profile page. Now, as we can see, there's a few buttons up here. There's a transcript search bar, and there's a message that says we have no transcripts. So what this does is these buttons up here is this is the home page. Now, since this is the home page, we come back to the home page that gives us messages such as guided prompts. We can go ahead, and this is the page about this site, which gives us more information about why this site was created. And this is our profile page. Now, what we can do is we can go ahead and click to start a practice session. And what a practice session does is it takes us to the practice room, and there is a random photo that is generated where we can unmute our mic and we could speak to that photo, anything we want about that photo. And what happens as we're speaking to that photo is the words show up on the screen, they're transcribed onto the screen, and if we don't like something, we can go ahead and replace it with what we meant. So we can go ahead and click here. And what happens is we're now in the practice room. Since we're in the practice room, we can go ahead and whenever we're ready, we can turn on the microphone and we could begin describing the picture. If you see that the program mistranscribes a word, we can click on it. The program will help direct you to an appropriate lesson to improve your pronunciation. So we have three buttons here, three buttons that we could choose. We have the toggle mic button, we have the new picture button, and we have the submit transcript button, and the user manual button. We can go ahead and click on the user manual button, and this page is loaded where this route is practice_manual. And here it just takes us through some steps explaining what we can do if we're lost and how to use the app. But we can go ahead and go back, and what we can do is we can do this. We can say we want a new picture if we're not satisfied with the current picture. But I think we can roll with this picture. So we could go ahead and toggle our mic, and once we toggle our mic, there's going to be words that's transcribed to the screen as we're talking. Okay, we can go ahead and click allow. So as I'm talking, you can see words that are being transcribed onto the screen, as you can see. Okay, so now we can see that the words are transcribed onto the screen, and we toggle the mic. So what happens is if we're not satisfied with what we would like, we can go ahead and click on that word and replace it with the word that we meant to say. Okay. So I meant to say, let's say I meant to say hello instead of talk. And what would happen in the code is that the code would compare these two words, and it would find all the syllables that are in the word that you meant to say that are not in the word that you said. And then it would take you to a page where you could practice those syllables that were not detected in the word that you said. And what happens in the code is, let's see. All right, there we go. So these two compare words. The actual word is what we actually meant to say, and the intended word is what we meant to say. The actual is what we said. And what these few lines of codes do is they compare the two words, and they find that they find the difference in vowels of the words. So we can go ahead and click on this button right here. That will take us to the practice page. I like to click on this button. I'd like to go ahead and log out and show users how to log in. So we can go ahead and do that. We can go ahead and go back to the home page where we submitted this, and we can go ahead and log out. Now what would happen when we click login is we would be prompted to enter our email address and our password. So we can go ahead and put in our email address that we created before, and we can go ahead and put in our password. And before we log in, what would happen in the code is the code would execute, and if our request.method would be post, what would happen is the two variables that we entered in, the email and the password, would be saved in this variable and this variable. And what would happen is we would access the Postgres database, the SQL Alchemy database, and we would filter by the email. And what would happen if that email does not belong to the database, that would mean that the account was never created. So we get a flash message that says the user does not exist. If if we go ahead and find out that the password does not match with the email, such as user.serialize the password, we would go ahead and say the password is incorrect. And once we get here, we would use this Flask functionality that logs the user in and marks the session as true. Because the user role would be student, since the student made the account, we can go ahead and it would get directed to the main profile. So we can go ahead and click login. And this is not a real security threat. We have implemented multiple Flask security imports that would protect us from malicious cybersecurity attacks. So since we only have one transcript here, we can go ahead and see what we said, what we meant to say. And now usually what would happen is if we were to practice one of these words, what would happen is below the text, we would have a few vowels that we practiced, and we can go ahead and click on those vowels that we practiced before, and it would enter the practice sets. But that's for another time to discuss. We can go ahead and send the practice report. So this is what would happen if you were to send this to your professor. So you'd send your practice report to your professor, this photo, this text, and you could send it to any email that you would like. So we can go ahead and send it to this email. Now this email doesn't exist, so nothing would happen, but let's see what happens. So okay, so there is an error sending a report. That's because the email address does not exist. Once we use this app more and more, we have certain functionalities that we can implement that where we're able to use the search bar to search whatever transcript we'd like to see, because the more transcripts you do, the more it would take up these pages, this page. So we can go ahead and search for any transcript that says hello. Now we wouldn't get anything because no transcript so far that we've done contains the word hello. So we can go ahead and empty search again, and we would get all the transcripts that we have so far, since we only have one. We could look up for any transcript that has the name words, and we would end up with this. And I believe that, as we can see, what we can do to prevent posts that are not correctly added to the database is that every time the profile page is loaded, it automatically lists all of the posts right here. We pass all these posts to the student profile.html page, and from the student profile.html page, all of those posts are neatly laid out on the web page. As we can see, this is the HTML file. But before all of these posts are laid out, we double check for posts that are incorrectly submitted, so that sometimes posts may not have their own photo, or the text might glitch out. And what happens is we delete that transcript. We completely remove it. And if that were the case, then the user can go ahead and try again. Go to the practice room again and try another transcript. What we can do next is we can go to the practice room and we could try again. So we can go ahead and toggle the mic and we could say hello, hello, hello. Okay, so this is what we said. Now, instead of hello, I could say I meant to say hi. And what we would do is now we go to this page and we go to a page. It says these are the words that we misheard. So what happens in the code is, let's see here. Okay, so the two words would be compared, the word that we meant to say and the word that we said, and all the vowels that are in the word that we meant to say that are not in the word that we said would be listed out here. So this would mean that now we have the option to practice the vowel of the sounds that we didn't pronounce correctly. So normally we would get a sound when we hover over these vowels, but this time we're not, and that's okay. So we can go ahead and practice this vowel. Numbers are down, so what would happen is if we were to click on one of these vowels, we'd get taken to a page where we can pronounce certain words that have that vowel, and it would give us a mini quiz, and we'd also have the option to repeat that vowel over and over, so we're able to perfect that vowel and then improve on that vowel. So we can go back home and we can see all of the practice prompts that we practiced. So we said hello, hello, hello here. We have the option to send the practice report. And what we have here is the sounds that we practiced. So we practiced the A vowel when we were on this transcript. So we can go ahead and click on that. And apparently the lesson content has not been made currently, so we can go back. We can go ahead and do the transcript search, so we could say hello, 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 search. And we'd only end up with the ones with hello, hello, hello.